Hi. So when I was looking for a sewing machine, I found a lot of side-by-side comparisons or a list of top 5 sewing machines, but I didn't really find anything that helped me understand what I should be looking for when it came to purchasing a sewing machine. And top 5 lists are great if you've narrowed down the selection to maybe 1 or 2, but what if you don't even know where to begin? And here's the thing, what works for someone else may not be the perfect sewing machine for you. The best sewing machine for you is going to depend on a variety of factors, including budget, type of sewing you plan on doing, how much time you plan on devoting to sewing, and how serious you are. So stick around to the end because I'm going to cover everything that you need to know to find the best sewing machine that fits you and your needs. So the first thing you need to know about sewing machines is that there are a variety of types. There are sewing machines that are geared towards quilting. There are ones that are just for embroidery or embroidery and sewing. There's also heavy duty machines, stylists, and there's also serger/overlock machines. Now, serger/overlock machines are a whole separate category, so if you're interested in learning more about that, I've got a video coming out soon. I'll put the link in the description below. So the first question you need to ask yourself is, what type of sewing do you think you'll do most often? Are you looking for something simple so that you can just do cushions or curtains, small at-home projects? Or are you wanting to be really serious about sewing? Do you think you'll do a lot of quilting? Just ask yourself this question so you can keep that in mind as we look at the different options. So first, there are mechanical machines and there are computerized sewing machines. It's pretty self-explanatory. Computerized machines operate on a computer and mechanical machines have manual controls. Mechanical machines are often considered a little bit more basic, but they're very easy to use and maintain, and they often last a very long time. They're generally more suitable for basic sewing or general home projects or alterations. Some of the pros of mechanical sewing machines is that they're easy to use/learn, they can last a lifetime, they're often more affordable, and they're easy to maintain. Some of the cons include that they're often limited to basic/simple sewing projects or alterations. They have limited stitching capability or number of stitches, fewer accessories, less precise stitching, or so they say. Also, once you're more experienced, it can be more complicated to get them to do some of the things that you want, as opposed to something you can do at a touch of a button with computerized machines. Computerized machines, on the other hand, often operate with either touchscreens or computerized buttons. They often include special features such as automatic stitch settings, speed control, and other easy-to-use features. In general, they typically have more bells and whistles. They typically have a variety of stitch settings and often offer more accessories and additional features. Some of the pros of computerized sewing machines is that they have automatic features that save time and make sewing easier. They can do a lot with just a touch of a button. Examples include automatic buttonholes, speed settings, an automatic needle threader, etc. Supposedly, they have a more precise stitching capability. Versatility is also a benefit. They can handle multiple types of sewing projects. There are a variety of machines available and ones tailored to a specific project type and specialized sewing. They come with a greater variety of stitches and accessories, and they can give you more control. Cons include that they won't last long, though I put a caveat in here that they might not last 100 years, but just like the rest of technology, you probably won't stick with the same one the whole life, and they last long enough. Also, they typically cost a little more than mechanical machines. They can be overwhelming for some beginners, and depending on what you plan on sewing, they can be a lot more than you need. So between a mechanical or computerized sewing machine, which one should you go with? It really kind of depends. It's mostly a matter of personal preference, and it depends on what kind of sewing you plan on doing, how serious you're about it, and how much time you plan on spending learning the craft. If you just want to be able to do a few things here and there, some alterations, fix some holes, maybe do a couple of cushions, then a mechanical sewing machine might be all that you need. It might also be all that you'd want, considering that it's the more affordable option. Now, on the other hand, if you want to do a variety of types of sewing projects, a lot of sewing, you want more features or versatility and convenience, then a computerized machine might be the better option for you. So if you think a mechanical machine is better for you, then go ahead and skip to the section on sewing machine brands. Now, if you think you're interested in a computerized sewing machine, stick with me because we're going to go through the different types and the different things to look out for when you're choosing a specific machine. So one of the types of machines is an embroidery sewing machine. Just as the name suggests, it's typically geared towards embroidery, and many often lack the capability of traditional sewing. They require a special software purchase in order to do the designs, and they come with hoops that stabilize the design. Now, they can vary in price dependent on the size of the designs that it can output and the cost of the software. These machines are ideal for anyone who wants to focus solely on embroidery. Another type is sewing embroidery machines. Typically at the higher end of the market, these can do both embroidery and traditional sewing. They typically have a removable embroidery unit so that you can do both. This type of machine is ideal for anyone who wants to primarily focus on embroidery, but also wants to be able to incorporate regular sewing from time to time. Another type is a quilting sewing machine, which often comes with features and characteristics that are specifically geared towards quilting. They often come with an extension table, and they often have more workspace, which typically includes more space between the control panel and the area with the needle. They also often come with presser feet included that are more geared towards quilting. Now, it's important to understand that you can quilt on any sewing machine and you can sew on any quilting machine. It's just that quilting machines are designed specifically with quilting in mind and add those extra features that allow more ease and convenience to your quilting process. These machines are ideal for anyone who wants to primarily focus on quilting. Heavy duty machines are another type. They're often considered the workhorse of sewing machines because they're extremely durable, they have a solid metal frame, they last a really long time. They have up to 50% more power, they have more speed, they can handle thick layers of fabric, as well as heavy duty materials such as denim, leather, PVC fabric. And these machines are ideal for anyone who is going to continually sew heavy duty projects, work with a lot of leather, upholstery, or just a lot of denim or other thick layers of fabric. Now, the last type of sewing machine that I would really categorize is a stylist. Stylists are really great for any type of sewing activity. Stylists, along with other general computerized sewing machines, are great for sewing clothing, bags, blankets, curtains, and anything in between. And although they are not ideal for large-scale embroidery projects, some can do a little bit of embroidery. They can also do quilting, and of course, depending on the machine and whether or not it has a heavy metal frame, it can also do some heavy duty projects, including sewing with multiple layers of material and different types of heavy duty material. Stylists often come with a wider variety of stitches and presser feet to allow that versatility for a wide variety of project types. Stylists are really ideal for anyone who wants to be able to have flexibility in their sewing and do a lot of different project types and isn't narrowed on one specific thing, especially if you don't know what that specific thing is right now. As you can see from the comparison chart on the screen, the different sewing machines are good for different types of sewing and materials. With the exception of the embroidery machine, the machine types are quite versatile and will allow you to accomplish many types of sewing. However, each will be tailored to a specific task and will make such task easier and include more features or pressure feet designed specifically for that. So the most important thing to keep in mind when you're choosing a sewing machine is to consider what type of sewing you'll be doing most often and to select the type of machine that most closely aligns with that in order to make your life easier and maximize efficiency. Sorry about the wait. I had to take a break. Had to get outside. It was a beautiful day here. Had to take a walk. You know how it goes. So once you've narrowed down what type of sewing machine you think will be best for you, there's some other really important considerations before you make a purchase. Number one, the number of stitches a sewing machine has is really not the most important consideration. Sewing machine sellers really like to market that, but in reality, you'll only likely use maybe 5 to 10 stitches. That being the straight stitch, the zigzag stitch, a few buttonholes, maybe the overlock stitch. But most of the stitches are purely decorative. They're very nice, but they're not what allows for the versatility in your sewing. Number two, presser feet really are the most important consideration when selecting a sewing machine, at least in my opinion, because presser feet are what really allows the versatility and technique within your sewing. And the more that your machine comes with, the better. Every machine should come with at least a general purpose foot, but there are other specialty feet that can really level up your sewing and allow you to do different tasks better. And while you can technically add presser feet individually later, at least depending on the brand, it can be rather expensive to do that. They can cost anywhere from $20 to $50 just to add one. So you can imagine that if your machine already came with several, that's going to benefit you in the long run. My machine came with 8 presser feet included. Some of the specialty feet that you might want to consider are a blind hem foot, which allows you to do a hem without showing any stitching on the outside, an overcasting foot, which allows you to finish seams and raw edges and prevent fraying all at the same time, a gathering foot, and possibly a darning and embroidery foot. These are just a couple of things to get you started. If you want to know more about presser feet, let me know in the comments below. The third thing you might want to consider is whether or not the machine allows for snap-on presser feet. The quick release lever makes it very easy to change presser feet within your sewing. And this might not seem like a big deal, but imagine having to get a screwdriver out every time you wanted to change a presser foot. Sometimes I'm going back and forth between the general purpose foot for a straight stitch or the overcasting foot for a seam. And I'll interchange those a lot. And if I had to unscrew the whole shank every time, that would really kind of slow down my sewing. So a snap-on presser foot with a quick release lever is really the easiest way to go. Now, there will be some that you still have to change the shank and get out your screwdriver for, but most of them are just an easy snap-on, pop off. It's way better. Now, I would think at this point that most machines probably do come with snap-on presser feet, but it's just something to look at. Now, if it doesn't say specifically whether or not it does, you can just look for the quick release lever and that will let you know. Additionally, automatic needle threading, bobbin winding, a thread cutter, and speed adjustment are other great things to consider when purchasing a sewing machine. While not essential, they really add ease, convenience, and speed to your sewing. One of the things you're going to want to consider when you're looking at a specific machine is whether it has a drop-in bobbin or front-loading bobbin. Drop-in bobbins are often more common these days, and for good reason. They add a lot of ease and convenience. It's much faster to change out your bobbin with a drop-in bobbin. One of the reasons is that the case is typically located on top of the machine. It's usually visible through a transparent cover, which you can release in order to change out the bobbin. The bobbin is then dropped into the case, which doesn't typically move unless you clean the machine, but you don't have to move it to change out the bobbin, so that prevents you from having to realign the whole thing each time, which is nice. And then you thread it based on the instructions that are typically printed on the machine with some sort of label, which makes it really easy, and then just cover it again with the transparent cover. And the transparent cover is cool because it allows you to kind of keep an eye on how much thread is left as you're sewing. In contrast, the front-loading bobbin is typically either like on the side or on the front, and you have to take out the whole case in order to change it, which is typically metal. So unlike drop-in bobbins, they're not as easily accessible and they're not as easy to thread. However, they do have a couple of advantages. I've not had one before, but I've been told that they make it possible to rethread a bobbin while in the middle of the seam without the thread showing on top. I've also been told that you can adjust the tension separately from the top thread, which sounds pretty cool. Although they can be a little bit more complicated to change out, they can add more control for the experienced sewer. Personally, I'm a convenience person. The drop-in bobbin is just so easy, but it's up to you. So now that you have a pretty good idea of what you want, I just have a couple more tips before you make your final selection. First, you're going to want to make sure that the machine that you're looking at comes with a power cord and a foot pedal included. That seems pretty self-explanatory, but I've heard stories. Obviously, you're definitely going to want the power cord, but I'd also recommend that you get a foot pedal, even if it doesn't technically need one. Even if it comes with a push-button start-stop, the foot pedal really allows for more control. It's a lot easier just to lift your foot up a little bit instinctually when you want to slow something down or speed it up, and I just think it's a lot easier than doing the push button start, even if your sewing machine has that capability. Also, consider the construction of your machine, its parts, and its accessories. I would highly recommend that you get a machine that has a sturdy metal frame, even if you don't plan on doing heavy-duty sewing, because it really adds to the longevity and durability of your machine. But especially if you do plan on working with heavy-duty materials, thick layers, then you'll definitely want to get that anyway. It might be necessary. Now, you'll also want to make sure that the presser feet that come with your machine are predominantly metal. This not only affects the quality of stitching, but also durability over time. Most quality machines have metal presser feet. Now, that's not to say that some won't have plastic elements. Some do, but the majority of the presser feet should be metal. Now, as you're looking at your options, another thing to consider is that there is ease and convenience, and then there are machines that are so fancy they practically sew themselves, the latter of which is a lot more expensive. So keep in mind that such a machine could be completely overwhelming for a beginner. It could also be a whole lot more than you need, and you can always upgrade in the future. Additionally, consider how serious you are about sewing, and if you're willing to put in a lot of time and effort, and how fast you think that you'll level up your skills. Furthermore, it's important to consider your work style. For me, I actually like the creativity and control in a machine that has a lot of convenience features, makes my sewing more efficient, but I'm ultimately in control. I'm the artist here. I don't really want a machine that does the work for me, because I know there are some that you can just kind of set it and forget it. Just think about, is that what you want, or do you want to have more of an active role in your sewing? Another tip is that to a certain extent, you get what you pay for, with a few notable exceptions. A $50 machine, for example, sounds really nice, but you're probably not going to get a super high quality machine, or at least something that goes beyond the basics. Now, you're likely going to get a mechanical machine with that, and if that's all that you need, that's great. But if you're wanting something that's a little bit more advanced, that's not really going to be a good deal. But also, I recognize that sometimes finances are tough and maybe $50 is all you could afford, so I just want to note that if that's all that you can do, that's great. A basic sewing machine is certainly better than no sewing machine, and you can always upgrade in the future. Keep in mind as you're searching that a higher priced machine isn't necessarily synonymous with a fabulous machine. However, spending a little bit more money can be where you find that higher quality machine that has the additional features like an automatic needle threader, speed control, and other little things that make your sewing a lot easier and more convenient. However, it isn't necessarily advisable to spend thousands of dollars or more. Just like $50 to $100 more can maybe get you a better machine that will give you those extra bells and whistles without having to break the bank. Now, when you're looking at a specific section, check that brand's website for special discounts or a section that says we made too many. That's how I found mine. I got a better machine for a lower price point because they made too many. So definitely be on the lookout for those kind of deals. Although this list is not exhaustive, some of the most well-known and reputable sewing machine brands include Singer, Brother, Juki, Genome, Bernina, Elna, Viking Sewing Machine Group, PAF, and Babylock. Now, if you want to know more about each brand as well as find links to the website, please check out the blog post, which is linked in the description below. Now, next you might be wondering where you can find these machines. First, I'd recommend that you start with a few companies' websites and just start to look at the different types of machines they have and the different price ranges and kind of get a feel for what you think you might like. From there, narrow it down to the type of sewing machine that we covered earlier. It might also benefit you to see what tools that specific brand has on their website. Some have what you call maybe like a machine finder section, where it'll kind of run you through a few questions about what you want. Now, keep in mind these aren't comprehensive. They don't include all of the information that you'd want to consider, but they can help get you started. Unfortunately, not a lot of sewing machine brands allow you to purchase a machine directly from their website, but they will often tell you where you can find them. So where do you buy a machine? That includes a variety of fabric and craft stores and regular retailers, such as Joann Fabric and Crafts, Michaels, Amazon, Walmart, Target, Hobby Lobby, local sewing machine stores, local sew vac machines, and also, believe it or not, the Home Depot. So in terms of whether you should shop online or in a store, it kind of depends on what you're looking for. In most cases, online can be a really great place to start because you can find a wide variety of options as well as a specific machine that you've already identified on a brand's website. The disadvantage with online is that you kind of have to know what you're looking for, so I'd recommend that option if you've already gone through the process of deciding what machine you want. If you just want to kind of look at a selection and see what a store has, I would recommend that you go to a specific physical store. Although the selection there can be a little bit more limited, it can give you a good starting point. You can actually look at some machines and see what's there. If you go to a place like Joann Fabric and Crafts, there are people that you can talk to that will help you. They have machines actually on display that you can look at, and there's someone that can answer your questions. So all in all, that really kind of depends on if you already know what you're looking for or if you need a little additional help making a decision. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button below. I hope that you're now equipped with the proper information to help you find the best sewing machine for you. So the first thing you note, specifically for quilting. Well, I had no idea.